Religion and politics, the two things you should never talk about. Well, I talked about religion earlier in the week, so why not talk about politics? Because, well, it's that time. Really, today what I want to do is talk a little bit about how a gentleman talks about politics or handles the situation. All right, I'm not going to go into like who I'm voting for or anything like that. I don't really think it's appropriate for me to discuss that because you need to form your own opinion. But what I can say is it'll be okay, regardless of who wins, all right? Whether or not it's Trump or it's Harris, like, you will be okay. We will be okay. I promise you, all right? Even though there's a lot of scare tactics from both sides about, oh, if this happens or if this person wins, you know, it's going to be the end of democracy, or it's going to be this or it's going to be that. It's all noise and nonsense just to basically make you scared in order to basically vote against the person that they don't want you to vote for, which is kind of the first thing that a gentleman does, and that is keeps us cool. All right, in the world of everybody's getting so crazy, so outraged, so, oh my God, it's crazy. If you are truly wanting to be a gentleman, you're going to chill out, all right? You're not going to allow this mob mentality or the craziness to impact you. All right. And what I mean by that is, unfortunately, you see a lot of people, you know, people you may be friends with on like Facebook or coworkers or friends that get like super fired up. They get super passionate, right? And they're yelling and they're screaming and they're going to debate you and they're going to tell you why this person is the devil and why that person is going to be evil. Like, I get it, right? But you, as the gentleman, as an intelligent gentleman, aren't going to allow the emotion to rule you. You know, one of the things that happens, you know, when you get super emotional or you allow emotion to take over, it basically prevents you from thinking clearly or rationally. Well, one of the things that I see a lot of people is they get super upset, they get super passionate, and then they yell, they scream, and then they say or post things that they honestly, in my opinion, shouldn't be posting. For me, I have a rule, and that is no political signs in my yard, all right? Even though I have strong political views, I am not going to basically allow everybody to know what they are. I'm going to keep it to myself. I'm also not going to post on Facebook. I'm not going to share. I'm not going to debate. I'm not going to get into it. Why? Because I'm too smart for that. I am going to make my decision in the voting booth. Or I should say, I'm going to make my voice heard in the voting booth. Vote. Just vote. It doesn't matter if you vote for the person that I'm voting for or your mom's voting for. Vote for the person you want to vote for. And then, if somebody asks you who you voted for, it's your prerogative, whether or not you tell them or you don't. For me, I also believe that you should keep that private as well, because you got to understand that you are going to alienate 50% of the people that you tell or that know who you voted for or who your candidate is, right? You know that 50% of the people aren't going to agree with you. 50% of the people are. It's smarter for you long-term in terms of professional and personal success to basically keep it close to the vest. Unfortunately, you'll see a lot of people make some very tactical mistakes when it comes to they like to express or voice their opinion, which, in my opinion, is a mistake. You know, especially if you're in corporate America or the world of business, just understand that you are going to alienate 50% of your customers. 50% of people are not going to agree with you. Michael Jordan had an amazing quote. He said, Democrats and Republicans both buy sneakers, which means shut your mouth. As a business, in my opinion, it is important to shut your mouth. You don't need to stand there and beat your chest and talk about who you're voting for or why this person is good or bad or whatever. You need to basically shut your mouth and sell shit. And I'm also a firm believer of not discussing this in an environment like work. Even though there are people that are going to try and bait you, and that's the thing. People try to bait you. They try to basically get it out of you who you are voting for or who you are going to basically choose to cast that vote for, even if you don't like them. And I'm not even talking about like, oh, I don't like either candidate, so I'm just not going to vote. Well, that's fine if that's your choice, but it's your choice. Don't allow people to get under your skin. Don't allow people to rattle your cage, because that a lot of times is what it's about. People like to shake the cage just to see like what shakes out. Are you with me? Are you against me? Do you believe what I believe or do you not? This is the kind of mentality And honestly, the one of the problems with our society, it's very black and white. You're either against me or you're for me. You're either with me or you're against me, right? It's bullshit. We're all on this spinning globe together, and we've got to understand that even if somebody doesn't agree with you politically or philosophically, doesn't mean they're a bad person. But when you choose to make a stand, or when you choose to let everybody know, understand that you are going to alienate 50% of the people. And even if ideologically you don't agree with what they believe, that's fine. But by you expressing it, or you trying to debate them or change their mind, you got to understand it's a worthless effort. You are not going to change somebody's mind that has an opposing view. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't. When is the last time you've ever had a conversation with somebody that believes something different? You said one or two things and all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, now I see your point. I agree with you. It doesn't happen. And so debating it on Facebook or social media or putting those signs in your yard, if that's what you want to do and what you feel you need to do, it is your right to do that. I'm just saying, as somebody that is ultra aware of how they are received, and also understanding that I don't want to alienate people, whether or not it's my neighbor or a potential employee or employer or customer. It's better for you to shut your mouth as a gentleman, vote for who you want to, and move on. When it comes to politics, it is such an emotional thing for certain people. For me, I am of the mindset of it will be okay, regardless of who wins. Whether or not people have scared you or said that it's going to be the end of democracy if this person wins, or if this person wins, it's going to be X, Y, and Z. You got to understand that we will be okay. We've had a lot of good presidents. We've had a lot of bad presidents. But the one thing that we do as a country is we come together when it counts and when it matters. When I think about 9/11 and I think about how strong and unified we were as a country when we were under attack or something bad was happening, it inspires me. But the political climate as it is right now is incredibly toxic. It's also incredibly detrimental to our sanity, but also just our loving of one another. It's okay to disagree with your friends. It's okay to disagree with your parents. I have very different political views than both of my parents. But it doesn't mean I don't love them, but I just know that I can't talk about that with them. Now, if you've got friends or people that are surrounding you or in your circle that you know you align with politically and you want to have a conversation about X, Y, and Z, then go for it, of course. But when it comes to the outward expression of your political views, I feel like a gentleman would be best suited to keep it to himself and basically just talk in the voting booth. The things that I'm going to focus on are what I can control. I can control my vote. I can control my business to some degree. I can also control what I do on a daily basis in my community. I can control how I treat people. I can control how I basically interact with the world. What I would recommend to you is do what you can do and let everything else go. If you want to get involved, if you want to be an activist, if you want to support your candidate, if you want to donate money, go for it. But in my opinion, it's best suited to shut your mouth and not talk about it in public, because 50% of the people believe something different than you. And when it comes to politics, something this emotional, in my opinion, a gentleman shuts his mouth.